Hello, it's Rebecca, White Woman Whisperer, Rebecca. I think that it's important on this journey to start at the beginning. I've debated a couple times how I would want someone to start learning from me. What comes first? Which, funny enough, will come back into play as if there's an answer. But for me, I think the answer is learning about the tenets of white supremacy, the core beliefs of white supremacy. Now, not just white supremacy meaning white people are supreme, they are better, they're superior. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying culturally, right? When especially America was created, what were the beliefs underlying the decisions made to create the practices that we now perform and decisions we make based on what value system? So, culturally, whiteness as a value system and as a state of being is the white supremacist beliefs, right? And there are core tenets to it that have nothing to do with actual whiteness. It's just that what I would say is the white men of that time believed these things to be true. So, in order to understand how things came to be and where things, changed and how we can shape things ourselves, we need to understand the beliefs that go behind the systems that are in play. And they come back around. So there's 15 of them. And I think my plan is to go through each one individually and think about how we see them in organizations and groups and ourselves. They will keep coming back. These are the beliefs that inform the practices. So if we want to change how things are, we need to change or understand, we need to understand why they are. Okay? So even, I've changed my opinions on some things, but just kind of learning more about this, I'm understanding that, capitalism itself isn't necessarily the problem. It's the white supremacist beliefs that inform how we use capital and how we value what is used with capital. So, mostly our economy is all that really matters here, right? The money piece. And if we didn't have the people piece first, where we are all humans and we see the value in each other, it's really fraught with problems. And it's why other countries can be capitalist countries, maybe like South Korea and Japan. And while they have problems, of course, there is a humanity that underlies the capitalism. So capitalism isn't first and foremost, money isn't everything. It is not the value system, but it's how they utilize money. It's just a way to inform who gets what, but after their humanity already exists. That's implied, it's there. So we need to know what's implied for us. In order to decolonize or deconstruct or unlearn, all these words we're hearing a lot since 2020. What are you deconstructing? What are you decolonizing? What are you unlearning? It's one thing to say, yeah, thoughts, it gives thoughts and prayers. And I'm listening and I'm learning. But it's not about what you say, what you don't say, where you go and where you don't go. It's why these decisions have been made, why you do these things, and questioning it and understanding that they were placed there subconsciously, and it's up to you to think critically about your reasoning, why you do things, and the impact it would have if you chose differently. So when we talk about unlearning and stuff, it's not just about whitewashed history or what is in the textbooks. It's about why those things were put in the textbooks. Why did they think this is what needed to be learned and this is how they should learn it? It's not about facts and dates and who did what and who invented what and what's the real story here. No. It's why did we learn it in this way? What is the value system at play that has landed us here in this place where we don't know where we sit, who we are, what the future, our own abilities, because, we've been swept up in this culture of, the culture is economy, which is just like a nothing. There's nothing there. There's no texture and humanity and distinction in this system. So we have to find it. And it starts with what some books call positive disintegration. So learning what you got to get rid of, letting go of so many of these values that do not benefit you and do not benefit the people around you and the people that you love. So I like the idea of positive disintegration because also it hurts. It's not fun. It's not like, oh, this is a great journey. Everything is, flowers and butterflies. It's rough to see. And it sometimes makes you feel like, oh my goodness, I've spent so many years doing this, and it makes you feel wasteful, but that's on you to remember that you're doing this work now. So your future is brighter. But it's not just learning new things. You have to realize that there's a lot of space in your brain that's been hijacked. But then once you realize that, you can release some of that, kind of exhale and allow room for new values and new value systems and new ways of interacting. So these tenets of white supremacy, these core beliefs, it's how we look at the world, how we look at other people, but even more so, it's how we view and value ourselves and ourselves in relation to other people and into the world. So it's about understanding why. And then once you can kind of poke at that and critically think about that, it makes it much easier to see where you can make changes and how you can make changes and what the impact of them will be. It kind of gives you a little, it's removing a guide in a sense, but it provides you a guide in what to get rid of. We'll figure it out together. And a lot of what moving forward is going to be stopping. As things are going to sound contradictory, but in order to move forward, in order to learn and have building conversations and constructive conversations around this, you have to think about what is harming you and what is helping you and how you can prevent things, but it's going to involve stopping. It's going to be slowing down to speed up, right? Standing in place and taking it in, looking around you, and seeing what you notice differently. What do you consider now that you would not have considered a couple of years ago? And be proud of yourself for that. So as I'll give a little beginning of these core beliefs and, what I'm working on personally right now as I figure out this next phase of the journey is perfectionism. It's the first one that comes up, and it's so perfectly timed for me. Perfectly timed. That's funny. It's well timed for me because I always thought perfectionism was like people pleasing. Like, oh, it's like one of those words you use to describe something you're actually proud of yourself for, but it's like a weakness. Like, oh, I'm such a people pleaser, which is a whole other thing we could talk about. But perfectionism is actually, it's an ism. And it all is going to sound so simple when I say it, but it's like, it's hitting me really hard. So, yes, perfectionism is an ism. The word it's in it, but it's an ism in the way that racism is an ism. Race was created, and then it had real world implications, of course, but it's made up by these dudes. And perfect was made up. And for some reason, I could understand that in a sense intellectually, but I could not apply that to myself. I thought, and I believed somewhere subconsciously that there was a right decision. And anything I was doing, it didn't feel right necessarily because I didn't know, because I wasn't getting confirmation, like a grade of 100%. It's wrong. There's so many ways to be wrong every day. And if you're focusing on avoiding mistakes and avoiding pain and avoiding regret, that is holding you back. That is perfectionism. That is what they call maladaptive. I don't think there's any adaptive perfectionism, but that's for another conversation because it's an ism, right? I think there are traits that have nuggets of truth, but we've talked about it kind of as like, oh, what's your biggest weakness? And it's like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. I must get everything right. No, no, no. That's not what it is. I saw something that said it's a trait that makes your life like an endless report card. And I could not agree more. That's how I've felt. And the thing is that no one gives you the report card. So you're just in this endless loop of like, ugh. I'm trying to evaluate myself and there's no rubric. So I'm waiting. It's this external value system. It's striving for flawlessness. It's unrealistic and it's rigid, right? And we think having high standards just gets us higher, gets us to a further place. But when it gets to the point that you think there is a right answer, there is a way to get 100%, and you know that you won't get that feeling, there's a lot of times that holds you back. But you have to realize that 100% as a concept, getting 100% was made up. Our school systems were created to have us believe that there are right answers. There are right answers, and multiple choice is a concept that does not exist in many countries as a proof that you understand something. Choosing out of four the right one does not prove that you understand something. True or false? I hated true or false. Oh, I hated it because I could talk myself into anything or out of. But when you give two answers and you say one of these is right, and if you choose the other one, you are wrong. If you do the wrong thing, you are wrong. Think about that phraseology and how often that, like, we can't separate that. We are saying we are wrong. That is your value. That is how you view yourself. Wrong? Oh my gosh. And if that's what you're trying to avoid every single day, you're paralyzed. You're stuck because you don't want to be a wrong person. And if you don't do anything, you can't be wrong. But that's not how we want to move forward, of course, right? And you can recognize perfectionism by the undue focus on perceived flaws or mistakes. So it's not acknowledging flaws or mistakes, but it's focusing on them. It's trying to eliminate them. It's identifying with them and realizing like there is no one judging you. You shouldn't be judging you. There was no right thing for you to do at that moment because we're not human doings. We're human beings. We're just supposed to be. And as simple as that is, it is really tough once you've been indoctrinated that you are what you do. But we are not. But it's easier to think about, getting 100% and just scoring that and knowing factually, if I get this, people will be proud of me. I will be good. I'm a good kid because I get good grades. That is known. I can control this element and I can know that I'll get a positive interaction out of adults once I get a good grade. I can know this. I can feel like I'm in control of something and I'm safe. But you don't get that in the real world. No one hands you the grade to say, go, now you know you're good. Because that's not how life works. And for some reason, I maybe up until last week, did not fully understand the 100% thing. And that you go into jobs and you get performance reviews and you can't, my job, it was like 5 is the highest you can get, but no one really gets a 5. You're always striving toward. And that's how you know you're doing well, by this made up external metric. It was all made up. Even when I got 100 and I felt like I knew factually I was good because I did a good job. Those questions, me doing well on that, had no direct implication of my value. The questions were made up and they probably weren't even accurate. I don't remember them. I mean, maybe some of them. Pythagorean theorem, I wish I could replace that in my brain. But releasing myself of also, when you're a perfectionist, you identify with your labels, right? What you believe you are. And then everything you do has to align with what you have said you are, right? I was smart. I was a smart kid. I got good grades. So I knew that that was my life. I went to business school as a grad. I turned 30 and I was still like, well, I got to get good grades. Even though we knew factually grades don't matter as a grad student and in business school, no one's checking them. But I needed them because I am good at school. I am smart. I get good grades. I get an A. And if I didn't get an A, it hurt. No one cared. It did not matter. There was no impact, but I felt it. I was stressed. I cared so much about my grades with no resulting impact that makes any sense. It was not worth that emotional investment, but I did it because it felt life or death to me. And, identifying with that label and thinking everything you do has to align with what you've said you are. And like, no, you could just be a floating, meat sack with consciousness who changes what they are every day. There's no one is grading you. And if they are, that's a weird way to spend their time. If you wouldn't, if you would accept their advice, don't accept their criticism type of thing. But when you are seen as a product or something that produces, there is no room for just being. It's only about what you're doing. And so that's why it's so hard to combat. We only know what we've done, right? We identify with our positions. I am a doctor. I am I am a senator. And there are ways to do your jobs perfectly because those jobs provide rubrics. And so then we get so enmeshed with our position and we say, well, now I know how to get the good grade. I just do this really well. I follow these rules. None of that makes us feel like autonomous beings, though. We don't sit with our sense of self and go, yeah, I'm alive. It's like, nope. Is it Monday? Is it Friday? Is it Wednesday? How am I doing? What's my thing? How am I showing up? Perfectionism isn't the cute little descriptor I thought it was. I am me. I'm not anything else. And the point of me is to be. And I don't know, it's so simple, but it's released so much weight from me and the expectations, and also realizing how much I'm not doing and how much it's making me uncomfortable because I'm not starting things I want to start. Because I think that there's a right way and I have to figure out what the right way is. Or else I'll punish myself really is the answer. But I feel like there's going to be punishment, like something's going to happen. But it's me. I'm going to make myself feel bad. I'm going to talk negatively about myself. And that's going to help no one, not even me. So this isn't a one and done thing. I'm going to have to kind of battle this, I don't know, maybe forever. I'm okay with that. I'm glad I know. I'm glad I can see it now, 34, but, better late than never. But yeah, perfectionism is one of the first tenets of white supremacy, and the striving for more. It keeps you busy as well, and it keeps you focused on whatever singular goal you're at that moment to get the good score on. It doesn't allow you to just sit and be and think, do I care about this? Is it worth being perfect? Is the return on investment of this energy worth it? But if you're just like, I'll think about that after I get this grade, that's not going to work. Having that inner peace and self-satisfaction is the goal. And that's going to involve a lot more introspection than that external rubric. Ooh, easier said than done, man. But ways to know, there was a very like a famous, I don't know, a popular article about the tenets of white supremacy, and it talks about how to recognize if you are in an organization or group that has perfectionistic tendencies or white supremacist culture in it. And it reminded me, a lot of these things reminded me even of being on TikTok, because after a while it has become kind of a community and a place and a product. And some of these things felt very accurate to, I mean, it's how we deal. It's where we are. You know, I shouldn't be surprised that I see these traits in everywhere where I've worked and all this stuff, right? So if there is little appreciation expressed among people for the work that people are doing, others are doing, appreciation usually goes to the same people over and over again. You know, the people at the top who are already being congratulated. There's a lot of talk about how other people don't do a great job. I remember I heard a lot of that in corporate America. Like, it's so much like gossip, and he's not good, and da, 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 da. And I thought that was, I was surprised. Mistakes are seen as personal. They reflect badly on the person making them, as opposed to being seen for what they are, it's just mistakes. You know, not, it's more like, ooh, they are a mistake. They are wrong, right? There's little time and energy or money put into a reflection or identifying lessons learned that can improve the practice. So they're not even learning from the mistakes. They're pointing out the mistakes. They're saying this is what was wrong, but they're not saying, all right, so when this happens again or next time, there's not that acceptance of the mistake to say, this is a human process. This is what happened. So now that this happened, we're gonna, fail fast and often or whatever. They don't do that. There's, a tendency to identify what's wrong, little ability to identify, name, and appreciate what is right. So it brings me back to the idea of focusing on the bright spots. If a kid brings home a report card and there's an A, two B's, a C, and an F, you have choices there. And often, under perfectionism, or in this society, what we naturally go to is that F. Oh my gosh, how do we get that grade up? What is going on in this class? There's another option. You could focus on that A. What is happening in that class? Maybe it's just that they sit up in the front. Maybe it's that the teacher calls on them. It could be something so simple, and focusing on what has worked and what is right and how to get more of that will gain a lot more than spending your energy berating, punishing, and, making one feel bad for the bad grade. If results are what you want, we have to stop and think and deconstruct some of that and go, what's your goal? What are you fighting for? And how do you want this person to feel? How do you want to feel every day? As if you're saying all these things you didn't do that you should, or how many healthy things did you do today for yourself? What we do should be for our own good, not to feel good. So it takes some slowing down. But we could do it. Practice makes perfect. No. Oh, it's like the opposite of see, I'm not perfect. But practice makes progress is actually, I think, the phrase people say. But we practice. We can practice being imperfect. Practice makes imperfect. And I kind of love that. Yeah. I hope that I hope I don't sound so silly just being like, did you know? Because I'm sure not everyone, feels like they identify with perfectionism. But being the eldest daughter, there's a lot of things that reinforce the perfectionism. And especially when I think about the fact that, like, I didn't like getting good grades because I enjoyed learning and I liked proof that I've learned the thing. I did it because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be seen as good. And that is it. That is the only purpose. I stressed it wasn't easy. I didn't like it. I saw the value in being able to bring home good grades, doing good things. Ick. Good, good, good. That's all The reasoning isn't good. It didn't lead me to a place where I actually felt good about myself. I only feel good about myself if I know I will be getting this. Because as I lead up to getting the grade, I don't know. So I don't feel good then. There's no real ending. It's just striving. It's a constant striving, and that is exhausting. And we need a break. Just a little. And to be just sitting and not thinking about all the other things. Just being in the moment. So I hope you practice that with me. And I look forward to pushing through some of this stuff and seeing what else we learn. The next tenet that we'll be talking about next time is the sense of urgency. Ooh, that seems relevant as well. I'll be mulling over that for a little bit the next couple days before I come on and do my next tenet. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Well, until next time. Thanks, guys.